How's it going, everybody? Or nobody? The internet, the invisible cameraman. Carpo is my name, and videos seem to be my game, because for some reason I find myself in front of the camera making them consistently. And then at night I'll sit back sometimes and think, God, I'm tired of making videos. Why do I keep making videos? And then the next day I'm making videos. So anyway, I should make a disclaimer. I should actually start making like a nice intro to my videos where it says, disclaimer, these are the opinions held by Carpo and they are not facts. They are not guaranteed, and your results may vary for just about everything I talk about. There are some facts, okay? I try to fact check, and I really don't try. I try to not make huge claims, sweeping claims that aren't true. But I'll tell you, I guarantee if any one of you sit down in front of the camera and you make a 20-minute video talking about a subject, unless it's something you damn well know well, even if it's something you study, you're probably going to make a mistake somewhere. And you might notice I don't edit my videos. I've never cut and a lot of the videos I watch are actually very choppy. It's like these 5-second thing, 5-second thing, 5-second thing. It's like, it makes me wonder if the author of the video really knows anything about what they're talking about. And I'm not dissing people. I'm talking about even some of the science videos. I know that they're designed for people with short attention spans, which is most of us. I have a hard time watching people like me, even if it's interesting. There are a few people that captivate me, and I can sit and listen to them for a full 20-30 minutes. But I'm always surprised that people want to hear what I have to say, because half the time I end up rambling like I am right now for 2 minutes about rambling. But anyway, that's kind of along this. There are some subjects that I've been thinking about lately that I take a lot of notes. And you might remember I made this video last week about this pen that I picked up, and it's a pen that you hit record, and this paper has little like stop, play, and all this stuff, and it has a little infrared camera on the pen, and so you can click and take notes with a video playing in the background. It'll record the video, and you could take notes along. So if you ever touch the pen to the paper where you were taking a note, it'll start reading back from that point in audio, and it's really useful for me when I'm researching. However, I can't sit here obviously and click each one with the notes, but I've been documenting these various videos about motivation, being original, having ideas. In fact, I'll just read off a couple of these notes to kind of give you an idea where I'm coming from. And the point here is to try to help people define their path. And I don't mean I'm trying to help you find your path, but rather the tools that I've learned to be, if you're the kind of person who is what they call an original, okay? This is the term they used in this video I was watching. There's a few basic rules that I wrote down. One of them is you don't have to be first, just better. And that means, I guess that could go to anything that we do in life. When I was a carpenter, I definitely wasn't the first carpenter, nor the only carpenter in town. But I wanted to pride myself on high quality work, and so I did fine work, and I didn't make a whole lot because I'd sacrifice extra time, and in the long run that pays off because you feel satisfied, like you've done good by other people. With my kratom business, it's the same way. I mean, I spend a lot more on the product because I want to make sure I get good stuff. So it's not that I'm the only kratom vendor. I just have a niche market. And anything you want to do in your life, you have to do that. You have to find a way to get in there, and don't be scared off by the fact that there's a lot of people doing it. When I was a carpenter, when I went to apply, there's like 200,000 people in the state that already had licenses, and I'm like, that's a lot of people, but you can still find work, And this is relating to work or play or anything you want to do. So, second one, you can procrastinate but still produce, and that goes with quick to start, slow to finish. If you're anything like me, you'll jump right into a project or an idea or a subject. The minute you hear about it, you'll be all over it. Be like telling everybody about it and obsessed with it, and you study, and you may start a project, and then quick to start, and then it just kind of tapers off, and then slowly finishes. And a lot of people, they kind of lose their way thinking, oh well, I started it but I never finished it. They say that people who are slow to finish tend to end up with a better product or a better result in the end because you've had time to process it. That's why they say sleep on it, right? So you have to use patience. And I think that's, there's one thing I read it says, people who fail the most try the most. And that's so true, that if you don't try, you can't fail, but you definitely won't succeed either. And more output, there's better chances of finding something original. And that's about, for me, that just means that the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. We all want to have original ideas. We all want to have something that's different and something that sets us apart from other people, because we realize that we're just humans, and that if we really want to make a mark, you know, sometimes people become a little obsessive about it. And they build, well, we know this, and just look at history. Look at the pharaohs in Egypt and all the way up to the present day. You know, look at the kind of crap that we build in our own honor. You know, I mean, there's nothing humble about naming everything you build after yourself. Donald Trump is a perfect example. You know, some people want to be recognized so bad that they have to be recognized through their earnings and their money. And this is very, you know, this goes along with something I thought about earlier, of how rich people tend to hang out with other rich people. And it's because, well, people, you know, birds of a feather flock together. So the problem is that they're basing it on a false premise, or rather a false attribute of being human. Having money is not a value. We want to attract people with similar values. Perhaps having money and hanging out with other people that are rich helps you to avoid the pitfalls of having to face people who have less, or, you know, to feel guilty, or maybe just their lifestyle doesn't jive with you. Whatever it may be, this isn't really about being rich. It's about how we tend to find a group that we can agree with, and we want people to recognize us for our accomplishments. And I know a lot of folks would probably say, you know, actually that's not true. I don't care if people recognize me, and I don't have to be flashy, and I don't have to be noticed. But if that works for you, then that's great. I've wrestled with this all my life. It's like, I put myself out there. You know, I'm everything I do in life I have to question, you know. So I'm out here making videos, and I ask myself, is it so I can be recognized? Am I just trying to get, you know, an applause? Am I trying to get a pat on the back from people? Or am I trying to, you know, cause an argument? What are the reasons behind me doing, not videos, but just any discussion I get into with people? I tend to get into things that are deep, you know, but things that are hard to process. And it attracts a certain type of person, the thinker, but it doesn't attract people who just want to talk about the weather, or, you know, or people who already have a set, firm belief system. I feel like I cannot discuss anything with people who are set in their beliefs as far as, you know, religion. If we're talking about something, you know, in spiritual essence, it's difficult. But I shouldn't have even thrown that word in there, because then it just goes into that, you know. We want to find people that recognize us and that we can recognize, I guess, is what I'm saying. And along the way, we find out that we're not always attracted to the same types of people that we once were. And I know this all too well. I've moved from group to group. I've never been a member of a group or considered myself this or that, but rather I tend to associate with different types of people over different times of my life. Now, the one consistent type of person that I've always been, you know, been able to hang out with and deal with, or say I'm not going to say hippie, definitely not hipster. I'm talking about like the Burning Man type person, which was back in my day, in the 90s, it was more like the second coming of the 60s. Everybody was wearing tie-dyes, long hair. I had my hair in braids down to my ass, you know, and those are the kind of people that I liked, because there was an attraction to that lifestyle. But as I got older, I grew away from the hippie types, especially the really grungy ones who were just, you know, I had friends who would compete to see who could have the dirtiest dreadlocks. I mean, it was all about who didn't take a shower the longest. And then when people would make fun of hippies, I'd be like, yeah, I can agree with that part of it. And so, but the Burning Man type crew when I go to soak is completely different. You know, these are people who dress funky and like to have alternative life, but they're very intelligent, and they're not, you know, they're not undesirable type people. For example, when, you know, somebody asked me the other day if I've ever been to the Rainbow Gathering, and I'd say, you know, I said that the thing I like about going to Burning Man or soak here is that when we leave, they actually plant grass where they burned. They clean everything up. Always leave it nicer than they left it. I guess the last one of these, one of the regional, whatever it was, let's see, the Rainbow Gatherings down in California or something, a couple of years back, when they left the place, they just left trash all over, and the local pet shelter ended up with like, I don't know, like 10 dogs, and nobody came to claim them. It was like, okay. So, definitely not trying to insult all the people who are in that. I'm just saying that I generally found that a majority of the people in that group did not resonate with me, so I moved on. And for a while, I was into that kind of love and light, spiritual essence, like everything's positive, everything's great. I wanted to see if that would work for me. And the hard, brute reality hits pretty quick when you say, you know, yeah, we can pretend all we want, but there is harsh shit going on in the world. You can't just close your eyes to it. Sometimes you have to get vulgar. Sometimes you have to get brutal. Sometimes you have to throw a fist. And I'm a totally non-violent person. And I haven't been in a fight since 8th grade, you know, and that was only because some guy was picking on me, but I don't fight. But I have no problem if I had to, you know. People need to just kind of, I guess, as a whole, we just need to kind of toughen up. And in today's society, we become a bunch of wussies. You know, we're afraid our kids are going to get hurt, putting them in bubble wrap and locking them away. And the same thing with ourselves, you know. We don't want to take chances. We want to always be protected and safe. And so, along the lines of that, with the spiritual thing, you know, I was thinking about this today with all the different theories about what may or may not be true in the world of alternative medicine. For example, you talk about vibrational rates, okay? People always say this, you know, you're vibrating at a lower frequency or a higher frequency. When in fact, you know, there's no device known, as far as today anyway, that's been able to measure these vibrations. But the idea is still very common and very believed among people. And for a while, I used to say that all the time, you know, that we vibrate at different frequencies. And then you find out that people say you need to ground yourself, and they buy these special sheets that ground them, and they claim that it helps them sleep better, and walking barefoot outside is important. And the claim that and after reading all of this evidence and these scientific studies to see if there was anything to it, you know, come to find out that what they're saying is that, you know, the earth is negatively charged, negative ions, and the air is generally positive. And positive ions can cause health problems. That's why animals get weird before a thunderstorm, and I guess kids do it too. But you can also find out that if you look more into it, that yes, grounding is a great thing, but there's the explanation as to how it works. The scientific explanation is that your free radicals in your body, you know, that are oxidizing, you want to get rid of those by walking on the ground so you can get the negative ions. Here's the problem. You're using real science from both sides, and then they don't link up. And this happens all the time. They're like fallacies when we're using different explanations about a particular thing that is true when the whole of the story isn't true. And the New Age movement is kind of doing this. And I hate to use the word New Age, but I'm saying this as an example of what kind of group and why I stepped away from that type of, you know, thing, like naturopathic medicine. You know, I don't know what I think about all this stuff. You know, naturopathic medicine, when you're talking about this is basically water, okay? If you ever buy those little bottles of the naturopathic medicine, there's something like 1/1,000,000% or some shit in there of the actual ingredient. And the idea that they say is that water has memory, therefore it's going to resonate at this frequency, I guess, of what was in there before. But here's where this comes into a problem, is where does placebo come in? How much is the personal intention? How much is placebo effect? How much is the body naturally healing and thinking it's working? This is where the problems come in, and where we can't seem to agree. And so what I've found is that we have the scientific side saying, basically, anybody who makes a claim that they can feel an energy or see an aura or anything, the people who are very scientific minded will say pseudoscience and delusion. Yet there may be something to it. But at the same time, those people who maybe can see auras or do believe in alternative medicine will say science, the enemy, as if science is the big problem. And my thing is, I've always said I have to stand up for both of them. If people believe something's working and it's working, it may be placebo or maybe not, but there's something worth looking into there. You can't cast everything out. Yet at the same time, we can't just trust that science has all the answers. But the thing is that science is a method, and that's the problem that we have. It's a method of discovery. Science is used as a them term. Like, scientists are out to get us and they're out to disprove us. And it's difficult to get past that. And I guess it was the discussions I'd have with people that kind of turned me off from that whole thing. And I'm talking about all of, David Icke and all his theories about whatnot. There's a little bit of truth laced in there and then a bunch of bullshit. And that's how I feel about it. I had a discussion earlier with somebody that said, that mentioned that it's been really light lately until like past 10. And she said that, in her 60 years, she's never seen it light this late, and claimed that maybe there is two suns, because a lot of people are saying that there are two suns. And in my mind, I'm thinking I'm only 2/3 that age, but I remember it being, light this late for my entire life this time of year. But when a person's been listening to people saying things long enough, it's easy to think that there's something else going on. But the discussion ended up with, me just saying, how could you possibly believe? It doesn't matter how many people are saying it on YouTube or elsewhere. I was like, if one person with credibility tells me there's two suns in the sky, I might be willing to look at it. But, I looked into this a few years back, and a lot of people Google sundog if you're interested. And sundogs are basically where there's a refraction in the atmosphere, and it'll appear that there's a second sun. And this happens all the time, but there are also many different things that could lead us to believe that things are a certain way. But what I'm saying here is that the consensus reality should be more important than individual people saying things. The consensus reality on alternative medicine is very out. I mean, it's very varied completely. You have conventional medicine and you have alternative medicine, but you also have things that are like kratom, for example. You could call kratom an alternative medicine. But if you tried to say it was placebo, you would be wrong. And you can show scientifically how it works on the body, okay? And the same way with cannabis. It doesn't matter. If you give someone a bowl of cannabis, then they smoke it. Placebo or not, they're probably going to get stoned. And, what I'm saying is if it's real, whether or not they think they're going to get stoned, they probably will. There have been studies of people who were given LSD in control groups, and half of them were given a placebo. And for hours, they talked about their mystical experiences they were having and how amazing it was. And as a person with previous avid psychedelic use, I know the feeling a person gets when you're thinking about taking some mushrooms or LSD or Molly, and you're going to go, have a good time and experience that night. If you decide not to, or something happens, and you step back and you realize that your mind is already in that mode. And that's a really important thing for me to realize. It's just like you get scared or excited before you go do something. You're not even doing it yet, but you're scared because of the idea. Your body will go into that state of mind by consciously thinking about it. So what I've been trying to do is harness this. Say you can't prove this to people. It's something you have to find for yourself. Like serotonin. A couple of years back, I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, I'm learning to control my serotonin at will. Now I realize, of course, it's probably not that simple. It's more than that. But it's closing my eyes, getting that just kind of, that rush you get. I don't know if you know what I mean, but I can create it now. But I don't just sit here and be happy all the time, because that doesn't work. It's a balance. But if I'm in a really bad state of mind, or maybe I'm just kind of burnt out, I'll just deep breath and focus. And how often do we really focus on healing ourselves and feeling better? I mean, people talk about, oh, well, you can think all you want about something, but it's not going to heal. And I'd say, well, how much actual time have you sat down and thought about healing yourself? Have you ever sat down if you have back pain and just focus on it going away, or toothache or something? Tell your brain, hey, I'm aware this pain is there, you can shut it off now. It can work. I've had several times where I was able to turn off my pain. And even sometimes for a brief minute, like I'll be in excruciating pain and then focus, and it's completely gone. And naturally it comes back when I start moving around and stop focusing. But it shows me the potential of the human mind to really heal the body. So I'm not opposed to alternative medicine. I'm not opposed to Western medicine. I think that they both have their place. Nor am I opposed to science, nor am I opposed to spirituality. And I think that finding a good middle ground is really important for all of us. I really don't believe that a life of complete logic and rationality, where everything has to be proven to you, is healthy. Yet, I can only say that from my standpoint and what I've found in my life. That when I try to get the answers to every question and to ignore and disprove everything that isn't proven by science so far, it doesn't make me happy, and it causes more problems. I find that it's better to just go with the flow and leave myself open to interpretation, open to whatever comes my way, and it's been a really good life that way. So, not trying to pin anything down. I mean, I went through some shit when I was in my early 30s. Started thinking about dying and really, really thinking about it, Not even dying, it was just the idea that I'm going to be gone one day, And it took a few years to process that. And look, it's 4:44. That always happens to me. Every time I look at the clock. And there's a perfect example. A couple years back, I was convinced that the universe was speaking through numbers to me. And today I say maybe, maybe not. I use it, I manifest what I want out of it. I created my own meaning for numbers, and I just go by that. And it's difficult to explain, I guess, but we each have to find our own way. And I'll just leave you with this one idea that was kind of my point here, that if either what you believe or what you don't believe is causing conflicts in your life, or if you have to prove it to people, you have to convince people that you're right, you have to argue, you have to go to websites to promote what you believe because other people don't believe it, then what you believe is wrong. Because if you really feel it in your heart, there's no need to prove it to anybody. That's how I feel. And I know that a lot of people have a different opinion of that. And I know the reasons why too, but that's just kind of how I see it. If you really want to have a true happiness in life, it has to come from within, and it can't be forced on anybody else ever. So find what works for you.